What's going on, everybody? Back at it again with another video. And as we know, the patch dropped a day or so ago. I was kind of hyped on it the first 5 or 6 games. It took me maybe like 5-6 games to get into it and realize how the zones play. The zones play a lot better. They don't actually acknowledge, like crossing routes, they acknowledge them. Slants, they acknowledge them. But it's the drags, like crossing drags. The problem with the match concept on crossing drags is that the crossing drags, they kind of aren't recognizing them fast enough. So for them to say that was patched, it was patched. They play a little bit better, but you can still beat them with like PA boot and so forth, because technically they don't recognize they're being crossed. I don't know how to say it, but they don't recognize they're being crossed fast enough for it to work. But they know they're being crossed, so the same thing's going to happen that was happening before. They come into a trail technique on crossing zones. Like right there, if you notice the way that play set up, the guy actually dropped down on a delayed crosser. So that's going to be something that you're going to probably see a lot of, delayed crossing routes and so forth. But the next thing is the route specialist. Route specialist is great. It's amazing. It's going to change and open up a lot of playbooks for you guys. Everybody's going to basically have like playbooks that are going to destroy, open up a new thing. You guys are going to see a million different plays in the next maybe couple weeks or so once everybody gets the game down packed. But the meta, but anyway, forget the meta. Did you see how that worked? That's the first time we've seen a screen from anybody. I haven't seen many screens. I've tried them and I've always fumbled, which is bad. But I'm glad the run game got a buff. It got a huge buff. Now, if you want to go back to the same old back in the day, like, you're gonna have to get a lot of strength. You don't have to have block shed. Apparently, disengage is different from block shed. Blah blah blah. Whatever they said. But at the same time, I noticed the zones play a lot different. Take a look at this. Look at the left and the right side of the field. Watch how this time they actually trail the receivers and keep them in their eyesight. Watch this. Normally, he would just drop back and leave a void so you could just chuck it over his head. Guess what? You can't do that anymore. You can't do that anymore. Now, take a look at this. Whenever this guy was that close to the tight end in a cover 3 scenario, he would just fly to the sideline and get beat by that route. Now he's not getting beat anymore, so that's a pretty good thing, and I like how EA did that. The next thing that I want you guys to pay attention to is, even though route specialists for wide receivers, in the later coming months, when we finally get a halfback who has the ability to get route specialists, that is going to destroy a lot of defenses. I've seen that table route, and if you look at my offense right now, look at these table routes. Look at how I use the table route from Barry Sanders. This table route, if it's drug across a formation, it destroys man, it destroys zone, it destroys a lot of things. It is like really unguardable and unbumpable. Like, now I want you to take a look at this again. Watch how he comes across, and watch how someone's behind him. He basically somehow swaps the coverage so that guy doesn't cover him. He basically goes into a blitz, or he goes into a zone that he's not into. Nobody notices that, but I noticed that with this patch. If you put somebody underneath that table route, it really destroys a lot of things. Like, it confuses the game. I don't think they paid attention to how that table route is set up. But like I said, the way they did it was basically, if we can run the ball, we no longer have to worry about manual blitzes, which, if you look in the patch notes, it says the manual was patched. It wasn't. You can still manually blitz, and I'm going to show you guys that in one of my videos, my next videos. You can manually blitz from the A-gap with the middle linebacker, with any linebacker, and it's really hard to stop if you know exactly what you're doing. It's kind of like the turbo blitz, but from the linebacker, if that makes sense. And the hard part is that I don't think they could patch it without opening up another gate to another blitz that would probably be worse than the manual blitz. So they basically gave you guys something to combat it, because if you're that close to the line, what's going to happen is, if you're trying to manually blitz and a person goes to a inside zone, you're basically swallowed up and pushed on your back because you're holding both of the back buttons, and your momentum stops, so you're automatically pushed on the ground. I'm guessing that's what they wanted. That was their main idea until they could patch the manual blitz, but it's still in there. The pass blocking, it's like you're being blocked by Einstein. These guys are the smartest blockers in the world. You guys have a good one.